Most people believe their body is fixed, that the moment you were born, your fate is sealed inside your DNA like a locked prison cell you can never escape. Your height, your intelligence, your diseases, your lifespan, finished, final, untouchable. But that belief is already outdated. Quietly, without announcements or global warnings, biology has crossed a line where the human body is no longer a finished product. It is an editable system. And once you truly understand this, you realize something unsettling. You are not living in the age of technology. You are living in the age of biological control. Your DNA is often described as destiny, but in reality, it's more like a loaded weapon that may or may not fire depending on the environment. Every cell in your body contains the same DNA, yet a brain cell behaves nothing like a muscle cell. Why? Because genes are not always active. They are switched on and off constantly, responding to stress, fear, nutrition, sleep, trauma, love, and even thoughts. This layer of control is called epigenetics, and it completely destroyed the old belief that genes are permanent rulers. Experiences can leave chemical marks on DNA that change how genes behave, sometimes for life and sometimes across generations. Trauma doesn't just hurt you psychologically, it can biologically program your children before they are even born. Studies on famine survivors, war survivors, and abuse victims have shown altered stress response genes in their offspring, meaning your body remembers things your mind tries to forget. Now pause and think about how dangerous that knowledge is. If suffering can rewrite biology accidentally, what happens when humans learn to do it intentionally? What happens when we stop waiting for nature and start editing the code directly? That question stopped being theoretical the moment CRISPR entered the world. CRISPR is not complex, mystical, or rare. That's the scary part. It's a molecular tool borrowed from bacteria, originally used as a defense system against viruses. Scientists realized they could repurpose it into something far more powerful: biological scissors guided by GPS. CRISPR can locate a specific sequence inside DNA, cut it, remove it, and replace it with something new. No long evolutionary process. No waiting thousands of years, just cut, paste, rewrite. Diseases caused by single gene mutations suddenly became optional problems. Blindness, muscular disorders, blood diseases, all theoretically correctable at the source, but curing disease was never the real temptation. Enhancement was. Because if you can remove a faulty gene, you can also insert a better one. Stronger muscle fibers, faster oxygen usage, improved memory formation, higher resistance to pain. Nature never optimized humans for perfection. It optimized us for survival under ancient conditions. CRISPR allows us to redesign ourselves for modern goals. Productivity, longevity, dominance. And once that door opened, there was no ethical lock strong enough to close it again. In 2018, the world crossed a biological point of no return. A scientist edited human embryos, altering their DNA before birth. Those children were not experiments that failed. They were born alive. Their genes permanently changed, and those changes will pass to their children and their children's children. This is called germline editing, and it is fundamentally different from treating a disease in one person. This is editing the future population itself. A single decision in a laboratory can echo for centuries through a bloodline. Now imagine what happens when this power becomes commercial. When parents are offered choices disguised as health optimization, reduced disease risk, enhanced cognitive potential, emotional stability, aggression control. The moment biology becomes a product, inequality stops being social and becomes genetic. The wealthy don't just live better, they evolve differently. And the most disturbing part is that this won't feel evil when it happens. It will feel responsible. Loving parents wanting the best for their children. And that's exactly why it's unstoppable. The deeper scientists looked into DNA, the more uncomfortable the discoveries became. There are genes linked to impulsivity, risk-taking, addiction, aggression, and emotional regulation. The infamous MAOA gene, sometimes called the warrior gene, doesn't make someone violent by itself. But when paired with childhood trauma, it drastically increases the probability of violent behavior. Biology doesn't excuse actions, but it explains tendencies. It loads the gun. Environment pulls the trigger. Now imagine a society that decides certain traits are undesirable. Imagine editing aggression out of criminals, fear out of soldiers, or emotional resistance out of populations. At that point, medicine stops being about healing and starts becoming behavioral engineering, and this is where biology stops feeling like science and starts feeling like power. Cancer, for example, is often described as a malfunction, a mistake, an enemy. But cancer is not foreign. It is your own cells doing exactly what evolution trained them to do: survive at all costs. Cancer cells mutate rapidly, ignore death signals, steal resources, and adapt faster than treatments can target them. In a twisted way, cancer is hyper-evolution happening inside your body. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The same mechanisms that allow regeneration, healing, and long life are closely related to the mechanisms that cause cancer. The difference is control. Modern cancer treatment is no longer just about killing cells. It's about sequencing the tumor's DNA and out-evolving it. Each cancer becomes a personalized evolutionary battle. And if evolution can be guided against cancer, it can also be guided against aging. Aging feels inevitable because it happens slowly, but biologically, it's not mysterious. Cells accumulate damage. DNA repair becomes sloppy. Senescent cells stop dividing but refuse to die, leaking inflammatory signals like biological zombies. Scientists have already developed drugs called senolytics that selectively kill these cells. In animal studies, aging markers reverse. Strength returns, organs improve, lifespan increases. Some researchers openly state that aging is not a destiny but a disease, and diseases are meant to be treated. The first human who will live far beyond what we consider normal is likely already alive today. At that point, death stops being a natural endpoint and starts becoming a socioeconomic outcome. And while bodies are being edited, brains are being hacked. Your thoughts feel personal, intimate, untouchable. But your mind runs on chemicals and electrical patterns. Dopamine decides motivation. Serotonin influences mood. Glutamate controls learning. Change the balance and the person changes. We already accept this with psychiatric drugs, but now the interface is becoming direct. Brain-computer interfaces aim to read neural signals, stimulate regions, restore movement, and enhance memory. But stimulation doesn't know ethics. It can suppress fear, amplify focus, and reshape emotional responses. When minds become upgradable, identity becomes flexible, and control becomes subtle. And this isn't even the strangest part, because you are not alone inside your own body. Aging is a software bug, not a destiny. Aging feels inevitable only because humans have experienced it for so long that it masquerades as a law of nature. But biologically, aging is not programmed. Death, it is accumulated damage combined with declining repair. Every second your DNA is assaulted by radiation, toxins, metabolic byproducts, and replication errors. And while young cells repair this damage efficiently, older cells become sloppy, repair systems fail, proteins misfold, mitochondria lose efficiency, and the body slowly fills with senescent cells that have stopped dividing but refuse to die, becoming biological zombies that leak inflammatory signals, disrupt surrounding tissue, weaken immunity, and accelerate degeneration. And for decades, medicine treated this decline as unavoidable, something to manage rather than confront, until scientists realized that if these senescent cells could be selectively removed, tissues could function like they were younger again, leading to the development of senolytic drugs that in animal studies reversed multiple aging markers simultaneously, restoring strength, cognitive sharpness, cardiovascular function, and metabolic health. Extending lifespan not by slowing time, but by repairing the damage time causes. And this discovery shattered the psychological foundation of aging itself, because once you understand that aging is a process rather than a destiny, it becomes something that can be delayed, modified, paused, or partially reversed. And this changes death from an endpoint into a variable because future humans will not simply age until they die, they will manage aging in cycles, repairing cellular damage repeatedly, extending functional life far beyond what evolution ever intended. And the deeper scientists dig, the more uncomfortable the implications become, because the same pathways that control aging also influence cancer, regeneration, and metabolism. Meaning longevity is not about one magic pill, but about balancing growth and control with surgical precision. And this balance will not be distributed equally because early access to anti-aging treatments will belong to those with money, power, or proximity to research, creating a world where lifespan itself becomes stratified, where some people experience decades of decline while others experience extended periods of biological youth. And the most unsettling realization is that this transition will not happen dramatically or publicly. It will arrive quietly through preventive medicine, health optimization, and wellness therapies, until one day society wakes up and realizes that aging is no longer universal. And once death stops being equal, everything else fractures with it. Culture, motivation, risk-taking, reproduction, relationships, ambition, and meaning itself. Because when life is short, urgency defines us, but when life stretches unnaturally long, identity must be renegotiated, and humanity has never faced a psychological transformation of this scale, where biology itself removes the ancient pressure that shaped art, love, fear, and legacy. And all of this is happening not in some distant future, but now, inside laboratories where aging is treated not as a mystery, but as a solvable engineering problem. The end of humanity as we knew it. Your brain feels like the last private space you own, the one place technology cannot reach. But that belief is already collapsing, because your thoughts, emotions, memories, and decisions are not abstract magic. They are electrical signals and chemical balances moving through neural circuits. And once science learned how those circuits operate, the brain stopped being sacred and started becoming accessible. First through drugs that altered mood and motivation, then through stimulation that could suppress fear, reduce depression, enhance focus, or intensify pleasure, and now through direct brain-computer interfaces that can read neural signals, stimulate specific regions, restore movement to paralyzed bodies, and potentially write information back into the mind, blurring the line between thought and technology. And once brains become upgradable, identity itself becomes fluid because if fear can be reduced, risk tolerance changes. If motivation can be amplified, ambition changes. If memory can be altered, trauma changes. And if emotion can be tuned, personality changes, raising a disturbing question. At what point does a modified mind stop being the same person? And this question becomes even more unsettling when combined with synthetic biology. Because scientists are no longer limited to modifying existing life, they are beginning to create life from scratch. Artificial DNA, minimal cells, organisms designed rather than evolved, meaning life no longer requires nature as its author. And once humans gain the ability to design organisms, tissues, and potentially minds, the role of evolution shifts from blind force to deliberate choice, placing humanity in a position that previous generations would have called godlike, not in power but in responsibility, because creating life is easy compared to deciding what life should be. And the danger is not that this power exists, but that it will be used incrementally, quietly, under the banner of progress, health, and optimization. Until one day people realize that humanity did not suddenly change. It drifted step by step, enhancement by enhancement, edit by edit, into something no longer bound by natural limits. And the most unsettling part is that nothing about this future requires evil intent. It only requires curiosity, competition, and the human desire to improve. Because once survival is mastered, dominance becomes the goal. And once dominance is mastered, redesign becomes inevitable, leaving us with a final realization that is impossible to unsee. The greatest transformation in human history will not be caused by artificial intelligence, war, or climate, but by biology itself, because the moment humans gained the ability to edit life, evolution stopped being something that happened to us and became something we do, and once that shift occurs, there is no returning to innocence, only forward into a future where the question is no longer what does it mean to be human, but who gets to decide?